Coming up on this Monday edition of Daybreak, search efforts at the site of the Sewol-ho ferry sinking are hampered by poor weather conditions over the weekend. President Park Geun-hye will make an announcement on the sinking and ways to improve the country's safety regulations. The chairman of Samsung Electronics and Korea's richest man, Lee Kyung-wook, is recovering from emergency surgery after suffering a heart attack over the weekend. First polls close in eastern Ukraine, where calls for succession from Kiev were put to a vote. The EU says it will not recognize the result, calling the referendum illegal. Daybreak begins now. Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Monday, May 12th. Here in Seoul, I'm Mark Broom and you're tuned in to Daybreak. And we start with the latest on the Sewol-ho ferry disaster. It was a tough and often frustrating weekend for the search teams and divers at the accident site as poor weather conditions limited what they were able to do. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports on this and the deepening investigation into the sinking.
Search efforts on the sunken Sewol-ho ferry have once again been hampered due to poor weather conditions. A heavy wind watch was issued on Sunday morning in waters off of Korea's southwestern coast, which includes the accident site. It's the latest setback for divers tasked with searching inside the ferry, who have been kept out of the water since the wee hours of Saturday morning. In their place, around 20 submarine ships using sonar radars are conducting most of the searches, looking for bodies that may have been swept out of the ferry. One of the floating buoys set up by authorities to track currents in the area was found as far away as 35 kilometers away from the ferry site. Prime Minister Chung Won visited the ferry site on Sunday afternoon. He vowed to provide special aid to the residents of Chindo Island, who have helped with the search and rescue efforts at the expense of their own livelihoods. Investigations into the ferry sinking also continue. Prosecutors have arrested a senior official of an inspection company on charges of negligence. They say the inspector provided a false report on the condition of the ferry's lifeboats. The official in question submitted a report to the Korean Register of Shipping, saying that equipment in 17 categories on the Sewol-ho ferry was in good condition, but only 1 out of 44 lifeboats deployed when the ferry began listing. Prosecutors are also zeroing in on the de facto owner of the ferry operator, Yoo Byung-won, and his family to determine whether there were any business irregularities that could have led to the ferry sinking. Yoo's brother appeared for questioning on Sunday. He was paid monthly expenses of more than $2,000 in business consultation fees by Cheongjin Marine Company, the operator of the Sewol-ho. It represents the first time a family member of Yoo's has shown up for questioning. Yoo's eldest son has been summoned to appear on Monday. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, President Park Geun-hye will soon make a public statement on the Sewol-ho ferry tragedy. This was decided at a hastily arranged closed-door meeting with her senior secretaries on Sunday. The roughly 3-hour meeting took the form of a debate instead of a briefing in order to gather various opinions on how to make the nation safer amid the ongoing uproar about the government's handling of the disaster. Presidential spokesperson Min Kyung-wook said the meeting focused on how to enhance the country's safety system. A specific date for the president's announcement was not mentioned, but it's likely to come soon, as Friday will mark the 1-month anniversary since the sinking. And Korea's 2 main political parties have agreed to convene an extraordinary parliamentary session to discuss follow-up measures to the Sewol-ho ferry sinking. Floor leaders Lee Wang-gu of the ruling Saenuri Party and Park Young-sun of the New Politics Alliance for Democracy say they'll open a plenary session and activate standing committees this week. The parties, however, disagree on other matters surrounding the issue. Opposition lawmakers want a parliamentary probe and a special prosecutor to be appointed for the investigation. The ruling party has expressed reservations about both requests. In other news, North Korea will top the agenda when the defense ministers of South Korea, the US and Japan sit down for trilateral talks this month on the sidelines of an international summit. It's just one of several meetings South Korean Defense Minister Kim Kwon-jin is expected to hold at the Asia Security Summit in Singapore that begins on May 30th. Minister Kim is also expected to hold bilateral talks with his American and Chinese counterparts. Talks with the US will center on a possible delay in the transfer of wartime operational control from Washington to Seoul. A possible North Korean nuclear test will make up the bulk of the talks with China. Seoul says it has no plans for a separate meeting with Tokyo due to the historical and territorial disputes that have seen bilateral relations tumble to their lowest point in years. Now, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un made a dramatic entrance at an Air Force event in North Korea over the weekend. He and his wife, Lee Sol-ju, arrived in North Korea's version of Air Force One, a white jet complete with a big red star on its tail and a red carpeted interior, believed to be Russian-made, the jet that is. It's the first time Kim's personal plane has been seen in public on video footage. Fighter pilots were also given the chance to put their skills to the test and compete for a trophy of sorts. Experts say Kim's shift in focus from the Army and Navy to the Air Force could be an indication that a provocation is in the works.
We start before the sun rises to bring you the latest stories out of Korea. We also lead the way with important global coverage. Stay on the pulse of what is happening with Daybreak.
Samsung Electronics chairman Lee Kyung-wook is stable and recovering at a private hospital in southern Seoul after suffering a heart attack. Lee's health complications has Samsung Group on high alert. Our Kim Min-ji reports.
The failing health of Lee Kyung-wook, the chairman of Samsung Electronics, has yet again emerged as a massive concern to the management of the sprawling Samsung Group. Lee underwent an emergency medical procedure at the Samsung Medical Center on Sunday after suffering cardiac arrest. Hospital officials say the 72-year-old is currently in a stable condition and recovering. Samsung's top executives, including officials from the company's Future Strategy Office, visited the hospital and held meetings to discuss the next steps. Experts speculate Samsung will not take any immediate action, but that they'll keep a close eye on the situation for the time being. In the past, when Lee gave up his position as the chairman after a special investigation which found him guilty of tax evasion and business malpractice, the group implemented several management reforms but did not enter an emergency business management mode. In March 2010, Lee returned to the front lines of management. His ailing health, however, will likely have a substantial effect on the group's management as Lee makes key management decisions and initiates business reshuffles. The group recently underwent a major reshuffle, transferring executives from the strategy office to Samsung Electronics. The company is expected to take some special steps to carry out the so-called MAC management strategy that was put forward by Lee. It's unclear how long Lee will be hospitalized. With Lee's health problems taking a turn for the worse, Samsung is also expected to accelerate its corporate succession to Lee's 3 children. Lee's son, Samsung Electronics Vice Chairman Lee Jae-yong, is expected to eventually succeed him. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, the prolonged economic slowdown in Korea has pushed many local consumers to buy bigger, and when they buy, in bulk. Sales of king-size products and multi-packs have exploded over the past 4 months alone. Paul Lee reports.
From food and cosmetics to even consumer electronics, big box retailers are bumping up the size of their goods to attract customers. And it appears to be working. Large supermarket chains reported double-digit sales growth of bulk or larger packaged goods in the first quarter.
Sales of large-sized products and similar goods increased 13.9% this year between January and April compared to the same period last year.
Retailers say overall sales have been driven by growing demand for these larger products. Convenience stores have also jumped on board. Sales of higher volume milk products among major convenience store chains in Korea increased between 30% and 80% in just a span of 6 months.
Since you get more for your money, these larger-sized essential household products seem to be popular.
Market analysts say the rising popularity of these products comes as customers seek to further stretch their budgets amid the prolonged slump in the economy. Meanwhile, companies are taking note and adjusting their offerings to meet the needs of value-conscious consumers. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
3 of the nation's leading credit card firms will be fully back to work by the end of the week as a 3-month business suspension slapped on them for their involvement in the biggest personal data leak in Korean history is set to come to an end. The Financial Supervisory Service and the Financial Services Commission had punished KB Gungmin Card, NH Nonghyup Card and Lotte Card for neglecting their duties to prevent the leak of customers' information and to comply with internal controls. The 3-month suspension, during which they were banned from issuing new credit cards, was the harshest penalty the firms could have received. It's believed to have cost the companies tens of millions of dollars and millions of customers. Now, in a related story, when it comes to credit cards, it seems Koreans can't really go more than a day or two without swiping their plastic. Among 18 countries recently surveyed by the Korea Financial Telecommunications and Clearings Institute, Korea came out in top in terms of credit card usage. The results showed the average Korean consumer made around 150 purchases using their credit card in 2012. Canada was far behind in second place at almost 90 purchases a year, and the US in third at 83. The total credit card spending of Koreans ranked third in 2012, with each consumer spending over $8,500. Now, a team of local researchers say they have come up with a way of generating electricity just from the raindrops that fall against a window or a roof. Our Son Jung-in reports.
A piece of glass substrate is connected to a small LED light bulb. When droplets of water fall 1 drop at a time onto the substrate, the bulb gives off a pale light. With the indoor lighting turned off, the flashing light, resembling that of a firefly, can be seen more easily. This time, the researchers use a shower faucet to sprinkle water onto the glass substrate. The bulb emits an even brighter light. The secret is in a new advanced energy device that turns moving droplets into electric power. It alters the electrical characteristic of water drops, which makes the electrons inside move suddenly, generating electricity.
Water that is normally neutral instantly becomes positively charged due to the device, which causes electrons to move.
1 single drop of water can create up to 0.42 milliwatts, which can light 3 to 4 LED bulbs at the same time. Researchers say the technology can be applicable to our daily lives. Using water that is wasted in kitchen or bathroom sinks could bring about a new assessment of the true value of water, literally making every drop count. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Time now for a look through the international headlines we're following on this Monday morning. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim, who's standing by at the news center. Good morning, Eunice.
And good morning to you, Mark. We'll begin in eastern Ukraine, where polls closed just within a couple hours ago on a referendum vote for self-rule. This despite warnings from the West and a public call from Moscow to postpone that vote. Here's Hwang Ji-hye with more.
Local residents in 2 of the most tense regions in eastern Ukraine lined up to vote on Sunday. The referendums in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, pushed by pro-Russian separatists, asks a simple yes or no question about whether they support the act of independence.
When I saw that the interim government had taken such illegal actions toward us, I decided to vote for myself.
Residents in the capital of Kiev, however, have expressed opposition to the poll calling for national unity.
This is not a referendum, but a lie. It's absolute Russia's provocation. Russia just wants to copy the script of Crimea's independence and separate Donetsk and Luhansk from Ukraine.
The referendums are similar to the one in Crimea in March that approved secession from Ukraine. Crimea was formally annexed by Russia soon thereafter. While referendum organizers showed confidence about the polling process, reports from international media outlets say several people were seen voting twice, while some areas didn't even have voting booths in place. The vote comes despite calls by Russian President Vladimir Putin to postpone it. It's also regarded as illegal by the West and the Ukraine government, which called the ballot self-destructive and a step into the abyss for the regions. French President François Hollande and German Chancellor Angela Merkel said that the focus should be on Ukraine's nationwide election on May 25th. The two leaders agreed that if the nationwide vote does not take place, there will be consequences, including stronger sanctions against Russia. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
Moving on to other news now, Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan is coming under fire for his government's belated response to desperate parents' call to find their abducted school-age girls. Parents believe their daughters were sitting in one place for a good 11 days since their kidnap from Chibok Government Girls Secondary School. The Associated Press reports the Nigerian government declined initial offers of international help for 3 weeks, a charge its presidential office has denied. And as international support teams begin to arrive in the African country, British Prime Minister David Cameron became the latest high-profile supporter of the social media campaign to bring global awareness to the girls' plight. This as U.S. Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel told a U.S. broadcaster the search would be a difficult one in the vast African state. He added he had no plans at this point to put American troops on the ground. And political unrest is growing in Thailand following the ouster of its Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra. Its caretaker government says it will step up security as opposition groups have issued an ultimatum for a new leader to be appointed by Monday. They threatened a coup of remaining government officials otherwise. This as pro-government factions are calling last week's ruling by Thailand's constitutional court that found Shinawatra guilty of nepotism was a, quote, judicial coup. Recovery teams searched the waters off of Libya on Sunday for bodies of the dozens feared dead in a boat that capsized carrying illegal migrants headed for Europe. The Libyan Interior Ministry says at least 40 people died in the vessel that carried 130. Some 52 were rescued. A Navy spokesperson said he believed the bottom of the small boat had collapsed due to the weight of the people on board. Libya had earlier called on the European Union to do more to curb the flow of illegal immigrants making the sea voyage through its waters. More than 100 people are believed to have died in the Mediterranean in the past 2 weeks.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off with the South Korean national football team as the Taeguk Warriors are set to begin their training for the upcoming World Cup today. With the team hoping to advance to the quarterfinals for the first time overseas, 9 out of the 23 players on the roster will be at the Paju National Training Center to begin their training. Of the 9 players, Park Ju-young and Ki Sung-young are currently rehabbing in preparations for the World Cup, and the rest of the team will join the group depending on their club team's schedule. And the team will be training before starting their overseas training in Miami at the end of the month. And moving over to the IAAF World Challenge currently taking place in Tokyo, Japan, where the South Korean women's 400-meter relay team set a new Korean record on Sunday. The 400-meter women's relay team, which consists of Oh Soo-kyung, Lee Sun-hye, Chung Han-sol, and Park So-yeon, finished with a final time of 45.32 seconds, beating a 5-year-old Korean record by 1/100th of a second. Of course, despite the record finish, they managed to finish 4th place behind Japan, Australia, and the United States. And now with that, moving over to Sunday's KBO action, and despite rain in the forecast, all 4 games that take place as the Kia Tigers beat the Hanwha Eagles 5-2. Nexen Heroes all over the LG Twins 8-1 thanks to Kang Jong-ho's grand slam, and NC crushes Lotte 10-1. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the Tusan Bears try to win their series against the Samsung Lions. Of course, going into the game here, we go over to the first inning. Jorge Cantu sends one to deep left field. This one far enough to score OJ1 from third, and it's 1-0 Tucson. Next batter with a man on, Hong Sung-eun drills this one to deep left field, and there it goes, gone, a 2-run shot, and the Tucson Bears have an early 3-0 lead. Third inning, man on first, hip hip hooray, Jorge Cantu with an opposite field shot, and it's 5-0 Tucson. Meanwhile, Tucson's Chris Volstead absolutely lights out in this game, goes 8 1/3, giving up just 3 hits on 1 run while striking out 3 batters. As the Tucson Bears win the series with an 8-1 win on another brilliant performance from Chris Volstead. And now moving over to some Sunday's K-League Classic action, we had one match take place as the Ulsan Hyundai Tigers look to finally get a win, and this time against the Busan I-Park. So let's take a look at the highlights from Ulsan's Munsu Stadium. Of course, Ulsan trying to break out of a huge slump in this match, and in just the 10th minute of the match, it's going to be Kim Yong-tae here on the corner who sends one past the goalkeeper, and it's 1-0 Ulsan. Stays that way until going into the second half, and in the 61st minute, more from Ulsan, this time An Jin-bum finding the back of the net, and it's now 2-0. We're going to fast forward over to the 74th minute. This time, Han Sang-eun has a chance, and he converts the third Ulsan goal, and that's your final score as Ulsan beats Busan 3-0, your final score. And more football, this time over in the English Premier League, where Manchester City was 1 point away from claiming their second league title in 3 years. And after a 2-0 win over West Ham, they did just that. And while Liverpool looked to have the title in their hand just a few weeks back, an epic collapse leads to Manchester City claiming their second league title in 3 years in front of their home crowd at Etihad Stadium. Man City would claim the title with 2 points ahead of Liverpool, while Chelsea finishes third with 82 points this season. And now finishing things off in the NFL, as history was made over the weekend when the St. Louis Rams selected defensive lineman Michael Sam with the 249th pick overall. The Missouri All-American, who came out last February during an interview with ESPN, was drafted on the final day of the NFL draft, becoming the first openly gay NFL player. The 24-year-old, who thanked the St. Louis Rams for the opportunity, and the city of St. Louis as well, will be receiving the Arthur Ashe Courage Award at the ESPY in July as well. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with the latest weather updates. Well, we've received quite a lot of spring rain overnight along with gusty winds, but it seems like most of rain is letting up or has let up, but the roads are wet and slippery, so please drive with extra caution this morning. And regions are waking up to layers of clouds, but it should gradually give way to nice sunshine as the day progresses, and temperatures will stay on the warm side for most regions, but here in the capital we'll only see a high of 20 degrees Celsius in the afternoon, so please dress accordingly, and this is a few degrees lower than yesterday. But the poor weather condition is expected over in Jindo. Winds and waves will continue to be rough, with winds blowing in at 7 to 16 meters per second, with the waves as high as 2.5 meters high. Well, with that in mind, let's take a closer look at the readings for today. The morning low here in Seoul is starting out at 13, and the high will rise to 20, while Daegu will peak at 27, and Gwangju and Busan should climb to 25 and 24 respectively in the afternoon. Let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like down on Jeju and Daejeon will reach 21 and 22 later in the day. Dokdo will see a high of 19, while Mount Keungang tops out at 16. Well, that's all for now, but I'll be back with more updates after 10, and it's time to take a look at the international weather for viewers around the world.
Okay, well, those are the stories we have for you at this hour. Korea Today is coming up in 30 minutes' time, and we'll be back at the same time tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.